formidable robot.
I'm pretty sure everyone knows about Beyond and its dumpster fire of a fanbase. Back when it was called GoAnimate, a barrage of parodies videos where certain cartoon characters, mostly Caillou or Dora, would get grounded for doing comically immoral things rose into popularity, beginning a competition with other early brain rot content on YouTube such as annoying orange or YouTube poop. Unlike some people, who usually get annoyed at these types of videos, GoAnimate content holds a special place in my heart, and I have a playlist with 78 of these videos in it. But one day while mindlessly scrolling through YouTube videos, I found a video in my recommended tab that sparked concern and interest within me. It was simply titled Judgment, and the thumbnail presented what seemed to be a typical GoAnimate animation. Stricken with curiosity, I decided to click on the video and watch it. The uploader's username was GoAnimate, and the video itself was posted yesterday. Since it was taken off the site a few days after I watched it, I don't fully remember the premise of Judgment, so I'll try to recite what happened as accurately as possible. The video started with Caillou in his bedroom, his back turned to the camera as he slept. When he got up, he kept his head down the entire time, his face not shown. He got out of bed, outside his room, and then outside the house. We stay on this shot of the door, until the screen cuts to black. It comes back, and the sky is slightly darker, signifying time has passed. Caillou walks back inside of the house. He is standing in the living room. Boris, his father, walks over to him with a stern expression, and speaks.
Caillou, I looked on the news today, and it said...
Suddenly, in place of actual words, all I got was a sudden blaring get-crushed noise in place of whatever Boris was saying.
Did you have anything to do with this?
Boris continued. Instead of Caillou crying via TTS, he doesn't respond. This causes Boris to realize that there is something wrong with his son. His expression changes from stern to confused.
Caillou, aren't you going to answer me?
It was at this very moment that everything changed from the traditional GoAnimate style. Caillou's head turns up for the first time in the entire animation, with a snap, like somebody cracking their joints. He lacked a face. The only part of him that actually had any ounce of expression was one lone eyebrow, but it didn't once move. Thing is, none of these animations were the preset ones GoAnimate had. Unlike Boris, Caillou was actually animated from scratch. Boris is staring, mouth agape, with a terrified expression on his face. You can hear him struggling to get any words out.
You.
Caillou spoke for the first time in the animation. His voice was not text-to-speech, but a low-quality recording of an actual person speaking.
What? Scared to not be the one in control anymore? Well, that's not where that came from.
Caillou snaps his fingers and the screen slams to black. We fade into Boris waking up, floating on his back through a river of black oil, or ink. Some black substance. When his eyes open, he immediately grasps the horror of his predicament, darting around as he bobbed back and forth in the water slightly, to indicate he was floating. Then something sounds in the distance. In a sing-songy tone, that voice from before rings out.
I'm right here, Dad.
Boris turns around to find his deformed faceless son. This thing, whatever you'd call it, begins laughing. Not even an explicitly scary laugh either. It started small. A little chuckle, a snicker. Then it got louder, and louder, and louder, up until he was cackling. He holds his head in his hands, and moves them to his eyes, as if he was weeping. What happened next was the most memorable part of this video for me. He began moving his hands. As he did this, you could hear squelching, and the sound of rubber being pulled. Flashy juicy noises coming from whatever he was doing to himself. Then he looked up. Caillou now has a malformed grotesque human face. An enormous toothy grin with completely pitch black voids where eyes should be. A singular oversized ear was in the corner of his face. His arms appear split open to reveal two new flashy arms underneath, with malformed hands and fingers. His abdomen has also been ripped open to display a cavernous mouth within his stomach cavity.
What are you? What have you done with my son?
The last bit of the sentence was bass boosted, in order to make it seem as though Boris was yelling.
Son? What's gotten into your head, old man?
Caillou charges over to Boris. The latter spoke haltingly.
Get away from me, you demon.
What's wrong? You don't recognize your own spawn, Boris? What a pity. I think I owe you an explanation, don't I?
He begins monologuing while Boris trembles in fear.
I'm not some demon, entity, or whatever. It's just me. Caillou. I was always... well, no. Not always, no. I wasn't like this from the start. I was actually filled with joy. But you dwindled that spark. That spark of joy. Of creativity. Of wonder. Simply because you never, ever, ever sat and listened. And whenever I tried to get your attention in any small way, you lash out because I was distracting you or whatever. Distracting you for being a subhuman fuck, I guess. I've been like this for most of my life because of you. You shaped me into this, and I never saw it until now, oddly. And you have the gall to even say I was your son just now. Like you were my father. What are you talking about? You're no father of mine. Take a look at what you did. You took everything that I ever cared for and threw it in the sand, all because I misbehaved once in the blue moon. Yes, I burned down the buildings. Yes, I murdered many innocent people. But I do it because you never gave two shits about me or Rosie. Every single heinous action I've committed was to distract myself from my harsh reality that you created.
As Caillou delivers his soliloquy, characters that appear in various GoAnimate videos come up from underneath the surface of the fluid behind him, beginning with classic Caillou, then Dora, then Rosie, then Little Bill, and so on. All of their faces are covered by stained marble masks, all frowning. Some angered, some scared, some saddened.
You should be conscience-stricken by this point, yet you never listen to me. All you do is break me apart and then put me back together over and over again. This is a never-ending cycle, and I want all of it to end, starting with you.
Boris takes a few steps back and utters to him.
What have you done?
Caillou points his finger at his father and responds.
What you failed to stop. But don't worry, you can live all you want, for a very long time. How long? Well, it's only...
Caillou began to ceaselessly read out random numbers, completely monotone. Clips of his own text-to-speech were overlapping with itself, as if he were speaking with 1,000 of the same voice. The distorted characters then start swimming towards the defenseless Boris, as Caillou slowly levitates into the sky, oil dripping off of him. Once they catch up to him, they pull him underneath. We get a shot of the fluid, none of them returning from the depths, Caillou still reading the numbers out. Everything cuts to black, as you could hear Caillou finally finish his absurdly long run-on sentence.
Years.
For the rest of the video, white text was displayed on screen, reading, "Love your neighbor as yourself." The GoAnimate logo doesn't appear at the end. I felt a mixture of awe and disruption. What the hell did I just watch? Was this a metaphor for abuse, or something even more sinister? It didn't matter, since the creator's account was taken down a few days after I watched the animation, most likely due to violating YouTube's TOS, rendering it lost media. I couldn't find it anywhere else, not even on GoAnimate itself. Everything that I saw begs the question. How much neglect, how much of being pushed around, and how much bending would it take for you to break?